Welcome to episode 26 of Post Hunt Clarity. I am your co-host, Gabe Denzine.
And I'm your co-host, Ben Resnick.
All right, we've been out of this game for a while.
Yeah, tonight we're talking about gooning.
Gooning. We're actually gooning right now.
Yep, we are gooning on the pod.
Yeah, while staring into each other's eyes.
Yep.
So, the last podcast, we talked about Ben's awesome hunt in North Dakota, where he shot I think your brother commented on the video and said it was a piss missile at 92 yards or 91 yards, which was awesome. But today we're going to go over some lesser deer that were harvested, one in the state of Missouri and the other is in the state of Kentucky.
Yeah, I just went and rewatched that video last Friday or the Friday before.
Yeah.
Actually, I've watched it like 5 times now.
Good. Well, you're gonna have it. I can't wait for you to show your kids that when you got dad more. Be like, I used to shoot 91 yards at deer. No big deal.
Yeah, I've connected with a couple guys at work recently. Not that work for us, but like clients, and a couple of them hunt, and so we start talking hunting, and I'm like, oh yeah, I went on my first mule deer hunt this year. Oh, did you get one? Yeah, shot one at 91 yards with a bow. In full velvet mid-October, and they're like, no way, and I'm like, the video's on YouTube if you want to go watch it.
Yeah,
like,
isn't that the best thing? Because everyone's like, oh right, it didn't have a nutsack, right, and it's like, just go watch the video, like it's all documented proof.
Yep. But yeah, so I mean, it's December 18th today, and we're looking back at hunts from what, like the 20th-ish of
I don't
October?
even know when I killed. The buck was so small and insignificant. It sounds like a dick move. I don't mean it that way, but it seriously was like, I can't tell you what day in October I killed it. I believe it was, I think the 26th or the 27th of October.
I think I shot mine the 25th. Because, yeah, that would make sense, because I called you when you were in Missouri.
Yeah.
It was the morning you were coughing like crazy. And
God, that was the entire trip. I was sicker than a dog. So I guess let's go first. You go first. Tell us about Kentucky. And we had a couple podcasts earlier about all the scouting, about everything you had been doing. So I think people would be up to date if they listen to a couple past episodes. But let's dive into, you get home from North Dakota.
Yeah, okay, so I get home from North Dakota. It's the 12th of October.
No, that's when we left to go out to North Dakota. It was the 11th.
You're right. I get home from North Dakota. It's the 19th of October. And I don't even remember prior podcasts what we had or hadn't talked about. So let me recap a little. I've got 4 permission pieces I can hunt, and I don't have a good buck on any of them. Like the whole time I was in North Dakota, I was pretty locked into the North Dakota trip, and I was like, well, whatever, like hunting back in Kentucky's whatever, but was like in the back of my mind, like, I hope something shows up this week. Like temps are starting to drop, and it just didn't happen. So got home, and at some point that week between the 19th and the 25th, I started to see not really bucks, but just like a lot more activity. And I had this one spot that I only sat once this year that I call the river piece, because it's like 20 or 30 acres maybe. It might be 40. I don't even remember. On this like super steep riverbank. The whole, like, I'm talking like 350 feet of elevation from top to bottom over not that far of a distance. And there's 2 stands on it. I had a trail camera right there towards the front of the property where it's still a little bit flat. There's an old mineral spot there from a guy who hunted it in the past, and I had a pretty good buck show up there that week, middle of the night. But I'm like, okay. And then I started having a couple 2-year-olds show up there, and then like I don't even remember, maybe another 3-year-old. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go hunt that piece this weekend, at least like Saturday morning, probably Saturday night. That's where I'll go. And the week progressed. This was beginning of the week. The week progresses, and at my other spot that I call Bruce's piece, Bruce is a guy I do Muay Thai with that lets me hunt, and I have bow hunting only permission there. He's got some guys that rifle hunt it. I knew this, like on paper, this should be a good piece. It's thick, but it's only 38 acres or something like that. But like one of his neighbors doesn't hunt, and again, started picking up some activity, couple young bucks coming through consistently, and I'm like, okay, like, never know what else is around. I'll go hunt there Saturday morning. So Friday, I think it was, I had this this 2.5-year-old show up, and I'm kind of at the point where like I just shot a buck in North Dakota, but I'm like pretty itchy to just shoot something in Kentucky. As bad as that sounds, like guys that have like we can never relay this enough, or like until you've lived it, it's hard to explain. But like what I'm gonna kill up until the end of this year, at least, is completely dependent on where I'm hunting. Like now I'm to the point where I kind of, and I'll try and recap this a little later, but got it all out of my system and like got some of my goals accomplished. And so now I'm going to be a little bit more picky, but so I'm like 2-year-old tomorrow comes in, gives me a good shot. Like there's a good chance he dies. And so I get in my stand, slip in perfect. It's a nice calm morning. It's cool. And gosh, this is 2 months ago. I'm struggling to even remember some of the details now.
I remember you called me while I was up at my tree in Missouri. I remember exactly what spot I was hunting.
Yeah, so I don't remember if I had a deer show up.
Yeah, you sent me a video that you saw a spike or something. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
you had a deer come through that I don't think you really identified, and it didn't give you a shot.
Well, so those two I'm getting to, but I can't remember. There might have been a lone deer that showed up first, can't remember. And at some point I'm like, it's probably a little early yet, but I'm going to hit the grunt tube. So I grunt, 2 bucks come in on a rope. Little dink like spike or fork horn, and then the 2.5-year-old I had seen a couple times. And it was one of those, like, as he's in front of me, I'm like, I'm going to shoot it. I'm not going to shoot it. I'm going to shoot it. I'm not going to shoot it. Never gave me a shot. So a little while later goes by, and I have up on the power line, which is probably 70 yards from where I'm sitting, I can just see kind of patches up there, and I have these deer, and I can hear them grunting, just go flying past the power line, or down the power line. Still no clue what they were. Don't think it was like a big buck per se, but I think it was 3 deer if I remember right. Then I had like a doe come through, and then all of a sudden, like I had squirrels around me all morning, and it's one of those mornings it's just like dead calm. And I've gotten to where I love this move. I'll grunt, and like that end of October where there's still some leaves on the trees, and if you've got a tree that you can like shake, like I freaking love that. Like, so I do that, hit my grunt tube a couple times, I'm shaking the tree, whatever, and I hear this squirrel to my right, and it's just like nonstop, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is driving me nuts. And it's getting pretty close, but it's still like leaves hang on down here a lot later than they do where I'm originally from. Like it's still pretty thick, and he's probably at 30 or 40 yards and I can't see it. And all of a sudden I'm like, I think that's a deer. Well, all of a sudden I see a rack. I'm like, yeah, it's a deer. And I can just see his left side, and I'm like, ooh, that's a pretty nice buck. Like that's probably a shooter. Well, he steps out, starts coming into my shooting lane, and I'm like, yeah, his left side's pretty decent. His right side is a spike with a spike going out the front and a spike going on the back. So he's a 3-pointer on that side. Yeah. He's literally like a year younger version of Snaggle Rack that we saw in North Dakota. And, kind of one of those where it's like, I think he's a 2.5-year-old, didn't have long. And now even saying this sounds dumb. I'm like, maybe he's a 3-year-old. I don't know. I'm excited. I'm going to shoot it. So I draw. He's at like 23 yards. Get on him. Shoot. Whack. And I remember watching, and this is ingrained in my head. This is the one part I really haven't forgotten. I remember watching, and my arrow just like dives to the right, for those of you that can't see me right now. So everybody other than Gabe. And I'm like, it hits, and I'm like, shit, I hit him way back. Like the deer I've shot back before, normally most of the time it's not far enough back that you think you made a terrible shot. Like I knew this was a bad shot. So I watched him run off, watched him stand there for a little bit, and then watched him go up to cross the power line. So I'm like, okay, I know he went at least across the power line. I can follow the first 70 yards of his blood trail and just, pick up on, make sure there's blood and stuff, and kind of know where I'm going to track him this afternoon. So I called Gabe. I'm all excited. Then I had like, Gabe's in the tree.
I'm not seeing anything, so I'm taking this call on fucking speaker. Like,
yeah, I can tell he's kind of just like, fuck it, like whatever. Like I'm not seeing shit in Missouri, so he's all excited for me. I get off the phone. I have like 4 does and fawns come running in, and I get down, blow them out of there, and find my arrow. Arrow's buried in the ground, no blood for like, I don't know, 10 yards, 15 yards. Just struggling to pick up initial blood, and then I find blood. And then there's a pretty good, I'm like, geez, for as far back as I hit him, like it's bright blood, and it's like pretty frequent. Like there's quite a bit of it. And so I'm like, maybe he was quartered away from me like harder than I thought or whatever. Gabe and I talked, it's I don't know, 8:30, 9 o'clock maybe. And I'm like, I'm gonna
It was
come
around
back
9.
at like, yeah, I'm like, I'm gonna come back around like 1:30 or 2. And
Because I think it was actually, it might have been about 8:30, because I remember I was packing out at about 9:30, and I was on the trail and my phone lights up, and that's when you were telling me I'm gonna kill myself.
yeah, okay. So I think by the time I was on the ground though, like pulled my shit out of the tree on the ground, like kind of starting to follow the blood trail, I'm like, okay, it's like 9 o'clock. So I get up to where like I last saw him, and he had stood there for a little bit, so I knew he was hit a little bit back, like he reacted kind of like a gut shot deer would, or liver shot. And so I'm like, all right, I'm gonna pull out of here. So I pull out of there, and I call the landowner and tell him the situation, or I texted him. I'm like, hey, shot one, not sure if you're home. I'll be back in a little bit. Just gonna give him a couple hours delay. It was kind of a cooler day. I'm like, I'm not worried about him spoiling. And he's like, well, what direction did he run? So I told him, and he's like, we got to go look for it. And I'm like, really? Why? And he's like, if my neighbor sees that, she's gonna freak. Like, she might as well be PETA. And I'm like, shit. So like, totally get where he's coming from. He's trying to do the right thing. Not freak his neighbor out, whatever. So I just gotten home at this point, and he's like, I'm gonna go out there, and I'm like, well, I need to be like, I need to be. I saw where the deer went. I know where last blood is.
Because in your head, as a hunter, you know that if you don't give this deer time, that it's a 99.9% chance you're gonna jump this deer.
Yeah,
But the
right.
situation is like, the landowner probably doesn't quite understand that, and I get he's trying to avoid a situation. So that
Yep.
almost it puts you at like a crossroad where you're like, I know this deer needs time to expire, but I can't just, like, I'm not going to tell the landowner what to do.
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, total respect to him. Like, it's his land. He is nice enough to let me hunt. He's an awesome dude. Like, and he's trying to do the right thing. I totally get it. And so I zip back down there. We get there, we start walking, and I'm still like impressed by the amount of blood. A lot of deer hit back don't bleed a lot, especially with fixed blade broadheads. And so we're going through the woods. There's a couple spots where blood gets tough, but then there's a couple spots where it's pouring pretty good. And I'm like, I'm starting to feel a little better about this. Maybe he's dead. Well, we get starts to go downhill into a little ravine where there's a little bit of cover. Sure as shit, we jump him. So I'm like, fuck. We watch him run 50 yards up the hill, and I can tell he's hurt. And then we kind of lose him. And I'm like, well, looks like he might have bedded down right there. So Bruce and I talk. He's like, no, I totally agree. Like, now that I've seen it, we need to let it lay. So I'm like, do you care if I just come back in the morning? And he's like, I'd prefer you go tonight. And I'm like, okay, well, as long as I can give it till, 4 or 5 o'clock, like, that's fine. So I go back out. It's maybe like, I don't know, maybe it was 3 or 4. And
It was 3 o'clock, because I remember you and I were having that conversation. If you shot it in the guts, I'm like, dude, you need 12 hours. And we're doing the math, and you're like, I'm sitting at about 6-7 hours by the time I get there. Like, hopefully it's a done deal.
Yeah. So I'm hoping that I walk up. He couldn't come with me that night. He had something going on. So I'm hoping I just walk up. At this point, he's on the neighbor's property. He had gotten permission for me to go look. At this point, I'm hoping I walk up to the top of this hill where we last saw him in this patch of cover, and he's just laying there. Or that I can sneak up there and get another arrow in him. And so I get up there, can't find blood, can't find the deer. I'm wandering around lost for like half an hour. At this point, like, he had clotted up a bit and wasn't bleeding. Well, all of a sudden, I'm sure this has happened to me, blood trailing deer, a lot of times. You're just kind of wandering through the woods, and it's like, trying to make your best guess as to where this deer could have went. So I go this way, no, this way, no, this way. And all of a sudden I'm like, oh, there's blood. Like, 100 yards from where I've last seen blood. And so I'm following the trail for a little bit. Again, he's like bleeding a decent little bit. Blood just starts to peter out. I jump him again. So I text Bruce, and I'm like, I'll be back in the morning. Not giving up yet. So stumble out there, get hammered that night. We had a Halloween party.
Yeah, you had a Halloween party. That's why.
Yeah.
That's why you couldn't go later, because I remember you said, like, he wants me to go tonight, and I was like, well, just go after dark, and you're like, I can't. I committed with, my girlfriend to this Halloween party.
Yeah, so stumble out, was up till 2 a.m. drinking Coors fucking Light, and
Slide.
alarm goes off at 6:45, stumble out of bed, get out there, start tracking this deer, and I'm just lost. Like, had a little bit of blood from where I bumped him, and I'm just lose it, and I'm doing circles, and I'm trying to just take known deer trails, and this goes on for like 2 hours, and finally I like backtrack up this trail, find a drop of blood, and this is like, I'm cutting out a lot of the details. I'm like 3 times over, I'm like, this is a done deal. He must just not be fatally shot or whatever. But I'm like not gonna quit. And so I find blood, and I'm going down this known deer trail, and it's like drop of blood, 25 yards, another speck of blood, another 25 yards, another speck of blood. And then I'm just kind of walking down this trail, blood stops, and like, 75 yards later, I look up and I'm like, there he is. He's laying there, right where you think a critically wounded, bumped twice deer would go, like right next to a creek in the bottom of this ravine, laying there. Coyotes had gotten his ass half a little bit, unfortunately, and he stunk like hell, but got him gutted. First Kentucky buck. Yep. Got him to the processor, and I will say, maybe we've said this on the pod before, I'm not a big venison person. His venison's great. Like, I got some sausage made, breakfast sausage. It's awesome. Like, I wish I would have got more of it made. The ground has been good so far. I haven't had any of like the rounds or anything, but yeah, so I don't know. He was, I'll be honest with you, I'm not a ground shrinkage person. Like, I'm like, be happy about what you shot. I got up to him and I'm like, I really thought this deer was a 3.5-year-old, like very clearly a 2.5-year-old, but like, he made me excited at the time. It was pretty much my last weekend to hunt in Kentucky because I knew I was going to Wisconsin after that. Like, I wanted to get the deal done. I'm happy with him. And so, I don't know, that was probably kind of an anticlimactic story, especially the way I told it, but like, it was pretty cool. Like, that was truly the first one that was like solo mission for me. Like, bumped it twice too, like did all the work to prep and hang stands and put up cameras and scout and all that stuff solely on my own. Did all the work to get the permission on my own. Shot him, nobody with me. Pretty much tracked him on my own. Bumped him twice and still found him. Like, it was just, I don't know. I'm as much about the story as anything, and it was pretty cool. So yeah, that's the story of my first Kentucky buck. So part of me too was wondering, as I was wandering through the neighbor's woods and through Bruce's, like the amount of rut sign I was starting to see, like I wonder what would have showed up on that piece. And then when I was home in Wisconsin a couple weeks later, they killed a crusher off that piece. Probably the picture he sent me is hard to tell, but probably 145-inch, maybe 4-year-old.
Yeah, that's a good as a smaller mainframe 10. Yeah, that's
a good buck. I'm wondering if he's that buck I had the one picture of in velvet this year.
I guess I'd have to see the picture again, but maybe.
You remember that though? In August, I was like, "Oh, had a good one show up," and you and I were talking. We're like, "It might be 150s."
How many trail cams did you run this year?
6 from July to the end of August, and then I got 2 more, so 8. I had 7
spread across like 5 properties, right?
Yeah, because I had 7 across 4 permission pieces, and then I had 1 on public.
And you ended up getting some pretty decent bucks on that public camera.
Yeah, so right? Public. So public was kind of wild. I had a sit out there like back half of September. Got it kind of a cooler morning, had a great sit. Saw like 9 deer on this, like it was just deer after deer after deer. And it just kept feeling like, okay, a big one's going to show up at some point, and just never did. It was a super fun hunt. So I moved my camera to where I got all the deer pictures. Like they were all on this same trail. Literally didn't get a single deer picture the rest of the year. Like not one single picture. Got pictures of people. Went back there to pull my camera last week, and there was a stand back there that wasn't there before. So somebody put a stand up there and obviously was hunting a decent bit. So, but yeah, I ended up getting some good bucks that was on the cow piece, one of my permission pieces.
Okay. Well, there's a benefit to that though, that you left your cameras up. It would have been awesome for you to pay for the plans instead of checking SD cards, but there you go. You had like a Christmas morning, but
I had to go pull them anyways. I didn't want to leave them out all year because with permission, who knows what could happen, I guess was my thought. And So I'm like, I'll just cancel the plans. I don't have a tag. Kentucky's a $1 state, so I don't have a tag the rest of the year anyways. It doesn't matter what shows up. I just want to know for next year. And I've got one piece that, like, I kept knowing a deer was going to show up at some point. And I've got one piece where it was like really no bucks until like the 27th or 8th of October. But then it was like buck parade for like through like the next month. It was like the 27th of November is when I stopped getting buck pictures. And like no giants, but a lot of nice 3.5-year-olds that I'm hoping. Yep. I'm hoping as late as I had pictures of them live. And, if that's my hunting down here, late season's a lot more bearable here than it is in Wisconsin. Like if you've got a buck pattern down here, early season can be good because season opens so early. But like if I need to just hold back a little bit and not hunt quite as early next year and then hit it hard, starting in October through December, like, then that's what I need to do if that's when the bucks are there. So it was some good intel I learned.
I'm still super convinced, and we had talked about this, that early season, a lot of the neighbors, or at least within a mile, are just heavily baiting deer in their holding those deer until all of a sudden they get super ruddy, and then at that point the bait pile doesn't matter because these deer are chasing.
Yeah, I was thinking about this the other day. I don't know why this thought hadn't crossed my mind. The thought of food on what I call the cow piece, this is where all those 3-year-olds were, has popped into my mind a couple times, but I thought about it. And I wonder if those people would sell it. Like, depending on what Bree and I decide we're going to do as far as where we're going to stay, which, the next 6 months to a year will kind of determine that with her job or whatever. Like, I wonder if they would sell it. The problem is I'd kind of have to blow up a relationship because the people that have the easement to get back there, it's their cows that are in there. And I wouldn't want the cows there because they'd eat all the food. I don't really care from a deer standpoint, but there's already a big cow pasture that's cleared. There's like 3 spots where I could put food in that are like already cleared. I just have.
How many acres was that piece?
It's like 52 or 54 or something like that. And like, I think I could pretty easily put in like 4 acres of food without really having to do much as far as like any clearing or anything. I just need to figure out like how to till it and stuff. And some of it's kind of cocked on a side hill, but I think it would work. And like, I think that piece would crush with food on it. Like,
yeah, I bet it would.
If I could have one big food plot in there, because there's one spot where I could have a big one, then next to it there's a clearing that would be perfect for like a pass-through plot, but it's like still decent enough size. Like it'd probably be about the size of your pond plot.
Sure.
Maybe slightly bigger, like 1/10 of an acre bigger or so. And then there's a couple other spots back in there's one spot back in the woods where I could probably do like an acre food plot or so that's already cleared. Sure. And they'd be like nicely spread out throughout the property, and like access would be good, and like I think that would crush. But I don't know. I don't know if these people they're an older couple. Mm-hmm. I don't know if they'd sell it, but if Bree and I think we're gonna stay here for a few years, I might bring it up to them.
Well, it's you and I talk investing more than anybody else, and it's a land purchase is never a bad purchase. I mean, especially if you get it for a good price. I mean, even if you're only there for another 2 years and you want to sell it and you can make an extra $1,000 an acre after what you did to it for what you spent.
Yeah. Right.
So while you're out trying to recover this deer, I'm already 2 or 3 days into Missouri. So the reason I went to Missouri this year is I needed a nested tree stand systems content trip. So I went with Trey Waynes and we were going to do a short film about, ex-NFL player, or I shouldn't say retired NFL player, new to hunting public. Trey Waynes is one of the co-owners of Love the Grind TV. They're huge right now, as far as like they're up there with the Drurys and Lee and Tiffany with their show and their ratings. And these guys are killing, multiple booners each year because they have a bunch of land all over in Buffalo County, Wisconsin, and Iowa, Kansas, Illinois. Like they had a lease in Missouri, but I wanted to have like something relatable. Like, all right, Trey, like step in my shoes and let's go on a public land hang and bang where we're packing in, we're hunting a spot we've never scouted. We just picked it on a map and we're like, let's go. Well, after I picked this spot, I picked it one because there's a big lake, and I'm like, there's a bunch of Corps of Engineer ground, and there's WMAs around. Like, let's go hunt. And literally, I got back from North Dakota, and I'm like, I want a boat for this trip so I can access spots that not very many other people can access. So I find a $1,000 piece of shit. It's a 1973 Starcraft with a 9.9 2-stroke Evinrude. on Marketplace.
Hell yeah, baby.
I buy this motherfucker, and I'm like gonna let her rip. So I launch it in Rice Lake the night before I'm supposed to leave, just to make sure the fucking thing works. And it took me like 25 minutes to get it started, figure out how to work the damn thing. It's smoking. I ripped around like Rice Lake for like 25 minutes, just having a ball. I felt like Free Willy out there, just like $1,000 boat dinghy, 14-foot basically John boat, and I'm ripping around at 8 miles an hour full speed. And I'm like, this is going to be great. I'm taking this thing down to Missouri. This thing's old. The kid that sold it to me was like, yeah, it runs great. Everything's great on it. Like, blah, blah, blah. So then I'm worried. I'm like, I got a 9-hour drive, and I'm just going to trust that like I can get this boat down there in one piece. So I have to drive Minnesota down through Iowa. I made a pit stop in Des Moines, and I had to do a business call, and I checked everything, and I'm like, everything's still intact. Like, we're going to ball out.
And mind you, so let me interrupt. The boat itself is fine.
Boat's good.
Like, the boat's good. The trailer is what's the piece of shit. Let me just throw that, was at least. You've done some work since then, but the trailer is the piece of shit.
So we get off at the Airbnb, which is only like 3 miles from where we're going to be hunting. And I meet up with a camera guy that Jeff Altoff, the other co-owner of Love the Grind, was like, hey, I'm sending a camera guy to film the short film. His name's Patrick. He's good shit. You guys are going to have a blast. I meet this guy at the Airbnb. I shake his hand. I'm like, let me toss my shit. We're going to pack this boat to the landing right away and go scout. He's like, all right, man, whatever. So we have to cross the highway, and we hit this gravel road through the state park or whatever to get there. And it's like the bumpiest, shittiest fucking road I've ever driven on. In this, like, I'm going like 20 miles an hour, and we can just see the trailer in the back going like, bam, 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 just like going nuts. And I got, I don't even hardly know this guy's name is Patrick right at this point. Like, we haven't talked about anything. He's asking about my experience, and I was like, hey, first thing you should know about me is I have Tourette's, so you're going to see me doing a bunch of weird things. No, I'm not on drugs. No, I'm not having seizures. This is just me. And he's like, okay, this guy's like an extrovert. Like, he's super chatty, blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, all right, we're going to get this boat in here. I'm like, you go to the ramp. I'm going to back up. We'll untie this thing and figure it out. So I start backing up, and I hop out, and I'm like, Patrick, you gotta look at this. And it was like the driver's side tire on the trailer was super wobbly, and like there's like cars have hubcaps. Like, this thing is, I don't know if it's like a bearing buddy or whatever it's called. Like, it's like a cover over the axle where they grease everything up where the bearings are. It was gone, and I can see that there's a bunch of gravel and shit inside all the lubrication for the bearings. And I'm like, this isn't great, but we're right here. Like, we can deal with this later. Let's launch the boat. I back the trailer in. Guy pulls the boat out. He's like, all right, you're good. Pull forward. I pull forward, and all of a sudden the truck jolts like this. And I'm like, what in the sane hell was that? And I look in the back, and my trailer tire is floating in the lake. And I'm like, shit. So I freaking then this guy starts filming. I've only known him now about 12 minutes. And he sees me like hike up my freaking shoes, throw my socks off. I'm, knee deep in this water, pulling out a tire. And I'm like, what are we going to do? And I'm still like, we'll deal with this later. The trailer fucking made it 9 hours. It did its due diligence. Let's get the boat in the water. So we pull forward a little bit. The trailer's like one tire's on, the other, it's just sitting on the freaking leaf spring. So I get up in the boat, and I'm like, all right, the trailer sucks. I'm like, I just bought this boat last week. It was $1,000 for everything. And he's thinking like, I'm going to drown out here with some kid. Like, I'm going to drown out here with somebody. And I was like, I just drove this thing for the first time yesterday. I have no idea how to really work. Like, I'm instilling confidence in this guy, right? That I'm just sent this camera guy out to come film some retarded 26-year-old.
Gave Snap stories at the time. Maybe this was a little while later, but I'm watching this from where I'm at, and his Snap stories are like, this thing's a piece of fucking shit. I'm leaving the fucking thing here. Like... And then he's got the trailer wedged up in the box of his truck. And
so we got the boat running, turned over right away. Him and I are off. And we're like, all right, first waypoint of interest I set is 1.5 miles up the lake. Let's go. So we we get there. I set a track on Onyx because the goal was that we're going to scout till dark, and I'm going to turn on the lights. I installed like $250 worth of lights and a battery on this boat so I could see, because these lakes down south are not like up here. Up here are big, beautiful, nice lakes. Like, these lakes have trees sticking out everywhere. It's like it looks disgusting. We're pulling into shore, and I still don't know like how to lift the motor, because like in a regular boat, like, I'd set the trim up because you're getting shallow, so I don't want my prop and skag to hit. Well, this, I just freaking plow in, all of a sudden, next thing you know, boom, I hit something, and like the motor kind of kills, and I'm like, fuck it. Like, we're already on shore. So get out, we go do some scouting. I'm like, okay, there's a good runway. There's not a whole lot of deer sign. On to the next. We push it. He pushes us out. I get in. I'm trying to turn this motor over, and it's got electric start, and it's got a pull start. Electric start, it's just sitting there going, and it's not fucking firing up. And I'm like, the guy's looking at me like, come on, dude, like get this thing started. And I'm sitting here like trying everything. I rip the top off, and I look at him, and I'm like, I don't know shit about engines. I can't change my oil. He's like, I film a bunch of duck hunts. Like, I'm super knowledgeable about two strokes. Let me look at it. He's looking at it. We're like, squeezing it, trying not to, to get gas in there. And I'm like, okay, is it flooded? Is it like, I don't know what's going on. So I have one, the kids sold me an oar with this boat, just one. And it was like, if you went on Temu and ordered an oar, and it was like a telescoping, like it only got up to about 3 feet. He's like, the camera guy's now like, all right, well, you fuck with that. I'm going to start oaring us out, and we'll start making our way back 1.5 miles from the boat landing. And then like I finally got the motor started, and then when I went to shift it, it killed again, and I'm like, oh my God. Well, the boat also came with like a shitty trolling motor that attaches to the front, and I had a battery in the boat. So I'm like, hey, Patrick, like, get this trolling motor hooked up. You fuck with that. I'm going to try and keep getting this engine started. Like, I tried for like 20 minutes. I can't get this engine started. Camera guys, instead of, doing his job and filming like he was getting paid to do, had to put down the camera. Like, I'm glad he did this. I'm not saying that in a negative way. And he's up there like Captain Jack Sparrow in the opening scene of Pirates of the Caribbean when his boat's sinking to the dock, and he's putting us with the trolling motor. So I'm past being mad. I'm just like, this is my life. So I'm filming the camera guy. It's a beautiful sunset. We're putting at like 3.5 miles an hour, full cruise. Made it all the way back to the boat landing right at about dark with the trolling motor. Still couldn't get the boat, taken care of. So here's my predicament. I got a trailer that's fucked. I got a boat that doesn't work. And I have to illegally leave overnight a trailer and a boat in the state park. So I'm like, all right, we're going to hide the boat on shore, get out, we'll figure out the trailer. Well, I looked at like the size of the trailer and whatever. I'm like, we're throwing this fucking thing in the box of my truck. So we lifted up the trailer, literally threw it in the box of the truck. And I left this part out. When we pulled up to the boat landing, there was 2 bass fishermen like catching bass right off the dock. And they're like, having some boat troubles? And I'm like, yeah, so my engine won't work. I just drove from Wisconsin 9 hours, and that's my trailer. And they're looking at it sitting on shore like this. And the kid's like, I work at Mr. Wrench's just down the road. Like, he's like, we service boats and trailers. Bring it in tomorrow morning. I'm like, perfect. I typed in this place. It's like 1/2 mile from the Airbnb. So the next morning was right away, drop off the boat trailer, pay to get all new bearings installed because both of them were shot. So bearings installed, all this shit. And then I have to, instead of like hunting that day like we're supposed to, or continue scouting, I have to finally get the trailer back and load up the boat, and then load up the boat and bring it back to the same goddamn place so they can work on that. So I ended up spending like $800 while I was down there to replace the bearings. I had a flywheel pin shear on the engine, which is why it wouldn't start. And then he replaced the pull start for me. So everything started working. Everything was perfect, but I'm at that point where I'm like, I don't want to trust it. I don't want to fuck with it. At this point, this thing just needs to get back home to Wisconsin. So we start hunting this piece, and Trey and this guy, like, they're more like they're double sitting. He's filming Trey the entire time. They're not seeing deer. I'm more like I'm in scout mode. First night I went deerless, walked out with some stranger that I don't know how he got out with me. Some old man that wouldn't stop talking my ear off. The next day, people everywhere. I think that's actually when you ended up killing, was that Saturday then, because I think we got down there on Thursday. Had a bunch of people. Sunday, same type of deal. Like I packed in like 1.5 miles of this nested system, and I sat and scouted. I'm like, okay, there's good deer sign here. There's, rubs and there's scrapes, and I get to a spot. I'm like, I want to sit here. Well, I look up and there's a tree stand in the tree. And I'm like, all right, well, that's exactly where I would put my stand, but I'm going to go 60 yards this way and set up. I get set up and I start hearing something come like weird noise. And I'm like, what the fuck is that? And I look and there's some guy that rode a QuietKat in, and he gets out and starts walking to the stand that I saw. And like he gets to the base of his tree, and I whistle and like waving my hat, and he throws his arms up and he's like, this is my stand. What am I going to do? And I'm like, I packed in and I was like this. I'm like, you got to go somewhere else. So he hops back on the bike and like, I'm like, dude, this guy got here in 2 minutes riding a bike illegally. I'm sweating my cock and balls off because I just packed in all this way. I ended up seeing a fork buck that legitimately like an hour later ran right under the guy's stand. And at this point in the trip, I'm like, dude, we got like 3 days left. The weather is getting real shitty where it's supposed to just be downpouring and windy the entire time. I'm like, I got to figure something else out. when I lived in Missouri, we somehow have a family friend there, I guess, that owns like a little bit of land. And my cousin Braden and my cousin Wyatt all went youth hunting there, and they'd always shoot good deer. Well, a mile from his house, there's a WMA, but it's only got total like 90 acres. It's not very big. And there's like 20 acres on one side of the road, and then the other 70s on the other. And it's archery and muzzleloader only. So the current place we had been at was like, you can hunt a rifle, muzzleloader, archery, doesn't matter. And I'm like, all right, when I lived in Missouri, I had amazing hunts on archery only land. So I'm going to go. So this was an evening sit, and I parked the truck, and there's literally 2 trees right off this tiny little gravel road that were just absolutely raked. I walk in, find a scrape. I had to, take a poop. So I pooped in the scrape, and then I walked into the woods on this runway. Yes, that legitimately happened. I'm walking on this runway and just had I'm like, okay, the terrain features look good, like private property surrounding it. Like, let's go find a spot to sit, and rubs and scrapes all over in there. And I'm like, this is great. Like, let's set up. And I sat that night. I crawled up a tree. I think I saw a spike. I saw a couple does and fawns. I'm like, I saw deer. I'm going to leave my set and I'm going to come hunting here in the morning. So then I halfway through the trip, and I tell Patrick, I'm like, hey, I want you to film me today, because I just you guys aren't seeing any deer. I need some content to, help this story. Like, film me. We're in the tree. I don't even know if I was sitting for an hour. And I had rattled and grunted, nothing really called in. I think we saw a doe. And then I looked down at the scrape at like 35 yards. I'm like, buck, 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 buck. And it's like right there. And out walks this beautiful, luscious looking 1.5-year-old 8-pointer, possibly a 2-year-old. Like, I knew exactly what it was. And it was just bigger than a basket rack 8, not by much. And I looked at him and I'm like, I'm going to kill this deer. And we had talked earlier in the week, I made a bet with Trey, and it was first one to kill 150 or 115 plus, gets paid $100 from the other guy. He's like, all right, you're on. This deer's nowhere near 115. It's more like 15. No, I didn't score. It's probably between 80 and 90. It's just,
I was going to say it's an 85-inch deer.
Yeah. We had talked with Patrick. I'm like, hey, if it's not the deer you guys want on film, just call me off of this deer. I look at him and say, I'm going to kill it. And he's like, dude, kill it. So I freaking, this deer, he's not giving me time, but I reef back, and this deer's about to walk in my opening, and I get my pin settled on it, and it's at 30-ish yards. And I hear Patrick, he's like, don't shoot. I'm not on him. Don't shoot. Well, instinctively, I'm almost forgetting about the camera guy. This deer starts walking again. I'm like, all right, now or never. I went, meh, and that deer looks right up at us. And then I'm ready to squeeze off, and Patrick, all of a sudden, he's like, I'm on him. Touch off the trigger. I think I punched the trigger, but that arrow, dude, dropped in, straight heart shot.
Yeah, you crushed that thing.
He ran 20 yards, and I had at first thought, because I watched my lighted knock disappear, I'm like, gosh, I hit him low. And Patrick's like, no.
So yeah, it screws with you.
And Patrick said the same thing, and he's like, no, dude, you smoked him. And this deer starts doing this thing and just piles over. He only went 25 yards.
Yeah.
And I lost it in the tree, and he's like, dude, he's like, the film shot's awesome. You can see you in the right side of the frame, the deer on the left, just like me filming your North Dakota buck. And then the GoPro on this angle got the deer, and the footage of this is awesome. And this video's, I don't know when this video is going to be done. But basically, yeah, I went to a different state with the expectation I was going to shoot a 130. And then halfway through the trip, I'm like, I just want to fill a tag. I just want to shoot a deer. And,
sometimes it just feels good.
The crazy thing is, dude, we'd passed that size deer in North Dakota. And opening day of Wisconsin season, passed a Velvet 7 that was 2 to 3 times as big as this deer. And I posted on my story and Instagram after this hunt was said and done, and people are like, dude, why would you shoot something that small, blah blah blah. And I'm like, I get it, I've been there, because I've also made fun of people for shooting small deer. But like you said, it depends on where I'm at and what's the situation. So what's my situation? I have 7 days to hunt. If nobody kills, I don't have an episode. That's shitty to say, but in order for us to bring this to fruition, we need some meat to this. And I was more than happy to put my tag on this deer. That's the only deer I've killed this year. It's in my freezer, and I'm like, the difference is I'm not going to go and be like, well, it's not the biggest, but it gave me meat. Dude, I don't give a fuck about the meat.
Yeah,
I'm just killing shit.
Yeah, Well, and I think it's part of it's like it's where you're hunting and what I'm going to say I think is what feeds that, but it's the history you have with the area sometimes too, right? So like for
Mm.
you, that spot you went to in Missouri, it's like, okay, I know nothing about this. I have no history with this area. Like I was
Mm.
able to scout my way into this spot and get on a decent buck, right? For me, it's the same thing in Kentucky this year. Like I was able to get permission. I don't have history with these pieces. I'm learning them as I go. I learned a lot this year. I have a buck that I'm excited to shoot. I know there's other bucks around that hopefully make it through to next year,
Mm.
that are, equal size or whatever. I'm excited to kill this deer. I'm going to kill it. When you have an area like where I go hunt in Wisconsin, like I know that piece has a history of producing mature bucks. You know,
Yep.
I'm
I'll
not
say
going to
because
kill
you passed a few 130s, I feel like, on that
yeah,
when you were
yeah.
back
I'm
home.
I'm I'm not going to kill a 3-year-old there. Go to my grandpa's piece close to Rice Lake, like 130 is going to die, 3-year-old's going to die there. It
Mm.
has a history of producing a lot of 2-year-olds, a few 3-year-olds every year, maybe a 4-year-old. Like, so it's all, I don't know. It's hard to put into words to me, but in my head it makes a
Yeah,
lot of
and
sense.
no, like I get it too. Like I'm not saying that if I would have stuck out the actual next 3 days, like there's probably a good chance that I would have had either another encounter with the same buck or a bigger buck would have walked by. But like I said, I'm like I've had a shit show getting down there. The boat fiasco, like all the money, like all that shit. The weather's I see the forecast. Like the next 3 days are not going to be enjoyable to hunt.
Yeah.
And basically, the rest of the trip, like the guys hunted 2 more days, never saw another deer, and they left early because they're like, we got giants showing up, in Illinois on our piece 2 hours away. Like, we're going to go there. And I'm like, I
Yeah.
completely get it. I don't blame you. And I got the boat home all in one piece, all taken care of. And, that deer's already on my wall, actually. I took it to Cumberland. Some 16-year-old kid mounted it and gave me a plaque for like $50.
Nice. Mine's on my porch. Literally put it in the. I don't know if I told you this. So, they cut the head off at the butcher and
Mm-hmm.
give it to me in a plastic garbage bag. And I bring it home. Oh, I did tell you this. Yeah, I told you the whole thing. So,
Yeah, I think you did. Yeah.
right out in the tailgate, on my tailgate in my apartment complex parking lot, I just pulled the bag down just barely enough so that the bottom of the horns were exposed, sawed them off, and I'm
Yep.
just doing a plaque mount with it.
Yep.
So, but I just haven't bought a plaque yet. But
is that what you want for Christmas?
maybe, yeah. But we need to try. I know you get pretty set into like I've been buying these points. I need to do this trip next year. Yada yada yada. But we need to try and do another hunt together next year, and one where we can both go hunt.
I had this conversation with my dad yesterday. As I said, I'm sitting on 6 points for deer in Wyoming. I'm sitting on 6 points for elk in Wyoming. And I said, with the way my life's planning out, is I'm just gonna throw it out there. I will probably have a kid by the time I'm 28. So I'm not saying like this summer I'm gonna have a kid. No, but by next summer you're probably gonna have a child on the way, or it's just where we're at with our stage of life. So I told Dad, I'm like, I want to draw this elk tag. I really do. The problem is I will not draw an elk tag to not go on a hunt with somebody. And the problem is I'm not going to be able to find somebody willingly to like, hey, I'm going to give up at a minimum like 10 days to do an elk hunt without a tag. It's just not going to happen. My dad's the only guy that's going to go on that trip.
Yeah.
But then I also told him, I'm like, Dad, like, you're not doing so bad right now. I don't think you'd fare well in the shape that you're in at 10,000 feet. But if I even wait 2 years, like, is that a trip you're even able to do? And he's like, dude, I have no idea. So I'm stuck at that crossroad where it's like, I want to do this elk hunt. I don't think I would ever, like, I'm not going to do that hunt by myself, and I don't know who I could go with. My dad really wants to do that mule deer hunt where he said, he's like, I bought a gun. He spent like $3,000 on a gun and a scope this just 2 weeks ago. And he's like, I want to kill mule deer. I watched your video with Ben. He's like, I've been out there with you. Like, I want to go kill mule deer. And I'm like, I need to know about elk literally in the next 3 weeks. It's due at the end of January if I'm going to elk hunt. If I'm not and I miss that, whatever. But then by May, I need to know, like, am I doing Iowa? Do I want to apply for Kansas? Like, I'm sitting on all these states that I could draw tags for.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. We could do Kansas together next year.
Yeah, and so the other thing with that, too, like, I got my dad and Austin Deuce. They're sitting at 2 points. I only have one.
I only have one.
But I'm more like, if I'm going back to Kansas, dude, I want a rifle hunt. I don't know why I'm set on it, but
yeah,
that's why I'm more apt where I think I'm honestly going to buy a second point so that next year, not like 2027, that I can draw with 3 of those guys. And if you have another point, I do like their rifle season's the first week in December. I'm like, I feel like with 4 guys to go push out some draws, like I think you'd fill your tags.
I think you'd shit at how fun Kansas can be the way we do it, especially if I could get permission for you to hunt with me.
But yeah, that would probably be a difference. Maybe.
But it's not free either. I mean, we stay in a hotel for a week, the way we've done it in the past. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. What do you need for, is it Black River in South Dakota? That's the gun hunt? I have 3 points. 3 points there now. Yeah.
Black Hills, West River, and then East River are the 3 units. You and I have the same amount of points, I believe. Actually, I think I have 4. Maybe.
I
have 3 or 4.
I'll read to you what I have. I just bought them before it closed last week. I have 3 for public or private archery. I have 2 for Black Hills because I didn't start buying that until last year. And then I have 3 for West River.
Okay, so I think you and I are the same, minus I should have 3 everywhere. That's a tag. Honestly, maybe we should talk about it. You and I can draw that mule deer tag.
Yeah. That's it. It'd be fun to do a hunt where we both go hunt. Not worry as much about filming it, but whether it's Wyoming, because I know you were saying you could do the group thing in Wyoming.
Yeah, I could I could get 3 people tags for an easy to draw unit. Like that's all, and that's back pocket. Like I'm at that point though. I'm like, I kind of want to cash them in, but also like if I go another year and buy another point, like I don't really give a shit.
Yeah,
but
maybe
like that South Dakota tag you can draw with 1 point. We already have 3. Like it doesn't really make sense to keep buying points. Like honestly, we should cash it in because then you and I both have a guaranteed mule deer hunt with bow.
Yeah, that's true. I really want to do one with a gun. I don't know how many do you think you need for West River?
I bet you need 4 to 5 depending on the unit.
Okay.
So we're a year or 2 out on that. But if you want to do a gun, like I said, I'd get us Wyoming tags. It's just logistically for you, you'd have to figure out how to make that work.
Yeah, which I could try to make that work. Otherwise, I mean, we could you could come down here, but it'd be fun to go somewhere we haven't gone. The problem is I'd probably have to table Wisconsin next year, which I might be okay with, honestly. We'll see, but
I'm only doing 2. You know, I'm already 100%. The only tag I know I'm putting in for is my Iowa tag.
Yeah, which I would do that, but I mean, we could do like a Missouri hunt and go back to where your old stomping grounds there. We could do somewhere different, like Illinois, where it's like a middle point for both of us.
Yeah, I actually have a lead there that might be good.
Like
for a big chunk of private. But
anyways, our listeners probably don't want to hear us talk about this on and on, but it would go hunt with your friends. It's fun.
Oh my gosh, that North Dakota dude, it's so fun.
Yeah,
like even if we didn't kill anything, like I still think you and I would have been like, "Oh, that was a fun trip."
Yeah, I mean, there's 2 sides to that coin. Like it was super sick to kill, but the trip got cut like 3 days short. Well, 2 days short, but really the hunting got cut like 3 days short because of that. But the other side was like it was sick that we killed. Like had we not killed and got the full trip, it would have been fun because we'd have had the whole week. But killing with your buddies is pretty fun. That's a top 5 experience.
The only downside to that hunt is you absolutely cannot plan it logistically to draw tags with your buddies.
Yeah, that's what's hard.
You just can't. But
unless you're going to do the res tags. Yeah, the problem for us is that really limits where we can hunt. Like really, like I don't know that you could do a week of hunting on what we have that's on the res.
No, I don't. Not unless you were.
I think you'd get bored.
And I think you would.
Yeah, I think you'd get bored.
Because it's just one of those like we experience. Like there's, you go 3 days without having deer there, and all of a sudden, boom, they show up. Like
yeah.
But, all right, listeners, we're into this for 53 minutes, so appreciate you guys tuning in. And I think the next podcast we'll talk about how I had a buck at 25 yards this late season, couldn't draw back on it, then rage shot a doe that I couldn't find. So
yeah, and I'll talk about my month in Wisconsin.
Yeah, so we'll go over that, but appreciate everybody watching.
Yeah, thanks for listening to us goon for 53 minutes.